that, Jesus calls the disciples together in the house when they get to Capernaum and asks them, what were you guys arguing about on the road? Oh man, now they've been outed. You ever been to class where the teacher gets called to the office for a few minutes, and then the class, of course, erupts in laughter and spitball throwing and all kinds of minor misbehavior, and then everybody leaps back to your seats as the teacher arrives back in the room and everything looks perfect. And the teacher says, who was throwing the spitball? Oh, how did the teacher know? And they're outed. And they didn't want to say anything, so they just said, quiet. Nothing. You know, they were arguing about who was the greatest. And it's interesting that we tend to think of those stupid disciples. What would they do that for? But in fact, Jesus does not scold them for wanting to be the best disciple. It's not that they want to have a crown and sit on a throne and be important. It's that they want to be the most faithful, the best at following what Jesus has taught them, the one who is most dedicated, the one who is willing to do anything for Jesus, willing to lay down his life for Jesus. For Jesus' cause is everything to him. They want to be the best disciple ever. And Jesus doesn't think that's a bad idea. What Jesus says, though, is that the way you are the best disciple is to be the least important, to be the servant. And that's hard, because it goes against everything we have ever been taught by our culture. Not just the culture in ancient times, but the culture in every time, is that you become the best and you are honored for it. You achieve. You go through school learning, you try to work hard, you do your homework, you study hard for the test, and you get the best grades. You get the best grades, you get a reward, you get an honor, you get a star on the board, you get to go out to dinner. Your parents let you stay up late and play video games if you get it on the dean's list or an honor roll or an A in math. You get rewarded for achievement. That goes on through all of life. You get degrees, you get promotions, you get elected to things, you get honors by being the best. And we learn to seek honor and appreciation and success. We measure our success in terms of our popularity, in terms of our title, in terms of our wealth, in terms of our prestige in the community. When people come to us and ask for advice, they are acknowledging our expertise, our achievement, our accomplishment. But Jesus says it's hard to be a servant because the servant is not in control. Much as our political leaders like to call themselves public servants, there is a thing about being in charge that is heady. It makes us feel good that we can make decisions and they come about. We can decide what to do and other people execute our will. The most powerful are the ones who don't have to raise their voice. I was picturing like the Godfather in the old movies. I wish that was not the way it was. Everybody runs out to take care of what the Godfather wants. Make it happen. Powerful leaders just hint at what they want and it happens. But the servant has to do things on other people's agenda, is subject to interruption, is subject to being ignored and forgotten and not appreciated for the work that is being done. And the work that is to be done by the servant is often the most disgusting and undesirable work. People don't even hire people to do the stuff they really like to do themselves. If you love cooking, you don't hire a cook. If you love house cleaning, you don't hire a housekeeper. If you love yard work and gardening, you don't hire somebody to do it for you unless you're physically not able to do it. You hire people to do the stuff you don't want to do, if you have the wherewithal. If you had a time when you had slaves, you would give them the junk work that you don't want to do. That is the point of Jesus saying that people are often ignoring other people who do stuff they don't want to do. In Jesus' time, the symbol of somebody who was there, but not that important socially, was little kids. Because little kids were supposed to be silent. The ideal little kid would be out of the way, not interrupting the dinner. The ideal little child would not ever interrupt a conversation, especially of an important person. That's why who got to take care of the kids? Kids tend to be disruptive, right? Kids tend to be wiggly. Kids tend to be noisy. Kids tend to like to play. So who has to take care of the kids? The women, the mothers. The holy men especially would not be taking care of kids. And Jesus seemed to be around kids all the time. Interesting that there was a kid with them, right? They had to be in somebody's house, and somebody's house had to have kids in it. And Jesus made a point of taking the child and says, whoever says hello, who greets a child, is greeting me. Whoever takes care of a child is taking care of me. And right after that, he pulls another totally different example. He talks about giving a cup of water to somebody. Why are those things paired like that? The first thing Jesus is emphasizing is care for people in the things that are overlooked and unappreciated and undesirable for other reasons. That doesn't mean that he wants people not to try great things, not to try to do important things, not to try to make a difference in the world. I think it's that he means we are subject to interruption by people in need. And it means we need not feel that those things are not worthy of us. It means that we need to focus on things that people need and not on what makes us look good or important. We need to care about the little things and care about the people nobody else cares about. That's the key thing about the child, not just children per se, but anybody who is not the center of everybody else's attention. That is where the greatest disciples show their worth, by caring for those nobody else cares for. But then John, one of the best disciples, comes to him with this, and he says, we saw people who were casting out demons and they weren't one of us. They had no authority. Remember, you gave authority to your appointed disciples to go out and cast out demons and to preach the word and to do good things, and they're doing it without any authority at all. They have no credentials. They are not one of us, and they're doing it in your name. They're doing it wrong. So what are we going to do about it? What should we do? The question just kind of hangs there. John doesn't say what should happen. He just says, it's not right. They're doing it wrong. Jesus responds with two really important things. One, he says, don't worry about them. Don't worry about them. He says, nobody can do a good thing in my name and then turn on me and say something bad about me. Right? So they're not going to hurt me. You think they're going to hurt me? He adds this great note of confidence. He says, anybody who is not against us is for us. He says, if people stand on the sideline, this train is just keeping on going. You don't have to worry about opposition. You don't have to worry about people not doing things the right way, with authority, with correctness, with perfection. And then, the cool thing is that he comes back to this other theme. He pulls up this thing about a cup of water. I tell you, whoever gives you a cup of water in my name, or because you bear the name of Christ, will not lose their reward. Why that in connection with this question about authority to cast out demons and people not being part of the official group? I think it connects it to the earlier story by making clear that compassion is the key thing in the story about the children. And compassion, even the littlest thing, like giving somebody a cup of water, even the littlest thing of compassion is more important than the question of correctness, more important than the question of authority, more important than the question of who's in the right group. Are you in our official group of disciples or not? Jesus doesn't seem to care. Not because he doesn't want people to be his real disciples. Not because he doesn't want followers. Not because he doesn't want people to cast out evil and do good things and be kind things. He is about the idea of doing all these things with compassion and with kindness. So when we see a little child that no one seems to care about, we need to remind ourselves that we need to act. Not tell ourselves, oh, I'm not good with talking to children. I don't know what to say to children. Kids don't care. When we see somebody standing in our midst with no friends and no one to talk to, we need to remember that it is our job to be a friend to the friendless. When we are inclined to see all of our pals and go and say how they're doing and see what's going on, and we notice somebody who is lonely, somebody who is lost, somebody who is not as socially cool as the group that we're in, and that can be here, it can be in school, it can be in work, any place. We need to remember what our job is. Even a cup of cold water is worth doing. Even the littlest gesture is worth doing. Even the things that only servants get stuck with doing is worth doing if it is done with compassion. And even doing it for somebody that nobody else cares about is worth doing, because doing that kind gesture, that single act of kindness is done not just for that person, but for Jesus Christ. And not just for Jesus Christ, but for God, the Father who sent him. God, the Trinity, loves the compassionate one and will smile on us whenever we take the role of the servant, do the work that no one wants to do, care for those no one wants to care for, and smiles and says, there's a good servant. There's the greatest disciple of all.